Welcome to Sweet Valley Diaries, the podcast where the truth will set you so free that you don't even have to apologize for all those lies you told. Book number 30, Jealous Lies.
Someone doesn't want Jean and Pi Beta Alpha. Her best friend, Sandra.
Hi, welcome to Sweet Valley Diaries. I am your host, Marissa Flaxbart, and with me today is Cherelle Solomon.
Yes.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, I said that very seriously, but I'm so thrilled to have you here.
Yeah, I'm really excited to be here.
One reason why it's especially cool to have you here is that it is book 30, which is actually the season finale of season 3, and that's exciting. So we're going to take a break after this, and that's exciting for me because
it's been a long road.
the grueling task of creating and editing this podcast.
Yes.
No, it's the love of my life, but getting guests, it's stressful. And all those books, I'll have some time to read something beside Sweet Valley High novels.
Little teen drama.
Yeah. But it's also really exciting because I understand that this was not your first Sweet Valley High novel.
No, I think actually I had maybe not the whole series, but I had stacks of the books when I was growing up. Probably elementary school, maybe middle school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, the books say on the inside cover ages 12 and up.
Yeah.
And often on this show, we're like, oh my God, I can't believe 12-year-olds are reading this.
I know.
But at the same time, they're not really, it's not like they're for high schoolers. Once you're in high school, you don't want to deal with this bullshit.
I know. I think that if I was in high school reading, I would have been like, this is ridiculous. But I remember because I'm from the East Coast.
Okay.
Right. And I had very immigrant, very Black parents. So reading these books growing up and hearing about these perfectly tanned 16-year-old kids and having their parents let them do whatever they wanted. It was a whole different world.
That's so interesting. One of the reasons, something that connected the dots for me, where I had this aha moment that I wanted to do Sweet Valley Diaries, which was a blog for a long time as a podcast, was actually reading a chapter in Roxane Gay's Bad Feminist about reading Sweet Valley High.
Yeah. And
kind of the same thing. And her parents were also immigrants. And she definitely described that. Yeah. It's just interesting. I think for me, my parents are not immigrants. My grandparents weren't immigrants, but I don't think my great-grandparents even were immigrants. So, I should probably know. But see, I don't know, so right. Lucky me. Anyway, or I don't know. I would kind of like to know that. Anyway, so at some point, people came over here from my family. But the point is that I also had always, growing up in the Midwest, had a kind of, westward gaze.
Right.
So I think that was definitely the appeal to me as well.
Yeah.
I read the younger kids' books, the Sweet Valley Twins.
Oh, I didn't even know they existed.
Well, actually, in the back of Jealous Lies, there is an advertisement for Sweet Valley Twins. Shush. So it just happened whenever this book came out, which is the first edition. Yeah. So 1986. So only a few years after the series started. Actually, I'll read this if you don't mind. It says, Sweet Valley Twins. Tell your kid's sister, your sister's friends, and your friends' sisters. Now they can all read about Jessica and Elizabeth in Sweet Valley Twins, a brand new series written just for them. So that was me. I don't know who told me about the books. I don't think it was I don't have any sisters. I'm an only child. But maybe that was part of the appeal, too. Oh, what if I had a twin?
Right. I wonder, too, because, I remember just kind of always wanting to be in California.
Yeah.
Always. And I'm wondering if maybe that started with these books.
And now here we are.
I know.
In California.
I know.
Yeah. Well, were you, I'm so off topic right now, but were you really interested in movie stars and what was happening in TV or TV stars? That's everybody though, right?
I think so. When I was younger, I was real hyped up. And even when I first got to, because I was in San Diego first. When I first got to LA, whenever I'd meet somebody, or I would really be super hype. I would lose my mind. Now these days, I'm kind of just whatever, it doesn't really matter. But I really was swept up in it.
That's probably a good, almost like a life coping strategy in LA. To not get too freaked out every time you see somebody.
Right.
Have you been watching Fleabag? By any chance?
Oh my God, I love that show.
I saw Brett Gelman walking down the street who plays the bad husband.
Shush.
Yeah.
Okay.
I saw him walking down the street at Silver Lake, really trying hard not to make eye contact with anybody. the other day.
I don't think I'd want to. He's like, it's sometimes when you see people in these shows, just kind of just like, ugh, you don't want to.
Yeah. Well, that's actually a funny example, too, because he plays such a skis
I
in
know.
that show.
It's just like, whatever, I'm good.
Yeah. He's like, just like abusive to every person he meets.
Such a good show. It's over. It's such a good show, though.
Yeah. I haven't watched season 2 yet, actually.
Okay.
So I know what happens, kind of.
Oh, that's upsetting.
Well, it's no spoilers. I just know some plot stuff.
Okay. Yeah.
Anyway, Fleabag.
Yeah.
Amazon has not paid me for this endorsement.
Okay.
That's what I'm trying to say. Well, and also, so I understand that this might not even be the first time you read Jealous Lies.
No, actually, I really, really, truly think I've read every single book that I had probably twice.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
And this is, book number 30. We're really pretty early on in the series. This book series went on and on and on. That's one of the first questions people ask me when I tell them that I'm on whatever number book I'm on. Is like, oh, well, how many books are there? And people are expecting the answer to be 10, I think.
Yeah, no, I don't even know.
It's over 150.
It's got to be. I don't know that I've read them all, actually. I know plots. I don't know numbers.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And I've actually only read Gladiators. We call our listeners here. As of a few episodes ago, we started calling them Gladiators, which is the team of the Sweet Valley High.
Okay.
Gladiators may not be aware of this, but I myself have only read up to book 50.
Gasp.
I know. Which I'm so excited for a couple seasons from now. Right. It's going to be brand new
we're
for
learning
me.
Together.
Yeah. But me as the so-called expert, that is something that I am not an expert in anything that happens after book 50. Which is a really pretty interesting book. But this is an interesting book too, I grudgingly admit.
Yeah, this is what I love. I don't know if you ever heard of Joanne the Scammer. Yeah. But I live for the drama. Like, I live for it. It's just so ridiculous. It's just like that 16-year-old drama, and I love it.
Oh, and this one is drama central.
Yes.
Like, I was thinking that, so a lot of the books in this series could be called Jealous Lies.
Yes.
But in this book, like, every plot line is about jealous lies.
Yeah.
Even the B story is about it. Both sides of the A story are about it.
Yes.
So let's talk about the characters, and we're going to have to explain a little bit, because we can talk about the cover, and that'll actually help, I think.
Yeah.
We've got two girls. Who the hell are these people?
Right. One looks like super haughty. The blonde-haired girl.
Right? Doesn't she look hot as hell?
No, not, like, also hot.
Yeah.
Which is weird.
Oh, haughty.
Like, she looks like,
Haughty.
But also, she's a hottie too, but in the book, they make her seem so frumpy.
I didn't realize until today it suddenly clicked. I mean, I'm sure I realized this before in the past, but in this read through, I was like, oh my gosh, the girl in front, the blonde girl in the pink PBA jacket is Sandra Bacon.
Exactly.
She's gotta be, because she's in PBA.
Right.
Pi Beta Alpha.
Yes.
A hot topic from the entire run of the series, because everybody always says, why is there a sorority in a high school?
Yeah, that's true. Never understood that, but then it becomes just like, oh yeah, that's normal.
Yeah, that's how I'm there too. Yeah. Every time people bring it up, I'm like, oh yeah.
Yeah,
don't worry about
that. High school have that?
Yeah. And then there's this girl behind her who, I don't know, who does she look like? She is brunette. Mm-hmm. She's got a cute yellow sweater on, but she looks like she's about 12.
Yeah, she looks very young.
Or I guess I should say, she looks 12 compared to this woman standing next to her.
Right.
And compared to, normally the people on these covers look so old.
Like very older.
Yeah.
But very much older. But even in the books, though, they kind of describe her as like this very like wayfish looking.
That's true.
So very like clear features, very innocent.
Yeah, she's got green eyes.
Yeah, so
many people have green eyes in these books.
Maybe that's just a characteristic of LA or wherever they're from in
Sweet Valley. Ooh, something in the water.
Right.
Yeah, it gives all these people green
Maybe
or
all
gray
rich
eyes.
people have green eyes.
Yeah, and a lot of them are rich. We haven't seen a non-rich person for several books now. So
but she looks kind of scared, like not scared, but like really apprehensive.
Yeah, the dynamic of these two girls is that the girl standing in front in the pink jacket, very pink ladies, of Grease fame, has her arms folded. Mm-hmm. She looks kind of like Kristen Wiig to me.
Yes.
With bangs.
Yes.
And she's staring angrily at the camera.
It's very superior.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that is not how this person, Sandra Bacon, feels.
Not at all. No, she feels very, like, in Jean's shadow.
Yeah, so Jean West is her best friend. They're, like, sisters.
Right.
They both have brothers, I think, but... Or Sandra Bacon, an only child. However, whichever it is, they don't have any sisters, but they're like sisters to each other.
Actually, I think they're both only children. Oh, yeah, no, they're like sisters to each other. That's true. Yes.
Yeah. And they wear colorful sweatpants and watch TV together all the time and gab the night away. Right. It's very like, oh, I want to do that. But yeah, Jeannie looks very apprehensive. And I think we'll interchangeably, they both have nickname names. Sandra. Jeannie and Sandy.
Sandy, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, they're both pretty girls. I mean, that's the crux of this book. Mm-hmm. Doesn't jibe with the cover at all, right?
I wonder if the cover is just like, we'll talk about it later, but kind of like in that crucial moment when they kind of realize, oh, shit. Yeah. Like, this is what's really going down. Yeah.
So the setup of the book, like the basic problem of the book is coming from Sandy.
Right.
One place where listeners will remember these characters is anytime we've done the rundown of the Sweet Valley High cheerleaders.
Okay.
Because Jean West is a cheerleader. Mm-hmm. She's great. Sandy Bacon is the cheerleader that got onto the squad because the cheerleading squad was trying to keep Annie Whitman off of the squad.
Okay.
Annie Whitman goes on to try to kill herself in what is one of the most batshit crazy books in the entire series, and the one that like sparked my interest in Sweet Valley High as an adult. Mm. Yeah, so she's bad. She's like a bad cheerleader. Okay. I say that. I'm exaggerating, but she's like maybe didn't deserve to get onto the cheerleading squad, and she knows it.
Like a diversity.
Yeah. So the blonde, but so let's describe. I actually have early on in the book, we hear this from Sandra. This is on page 8. She knew she looked okay, as she always did. Okay, the perfect word to describe her, Sandra thought. Average height, average build, average grades. Sandra looked at the pretty, chattering, self-confident girls around her. I've got to be the most average girl in this room. She didn't mean to put herself down. She felt she was just being honest. The way Sandra saw it, she was the sort of girl people liked but never really remembered. Usually people met her with a group and didn't pay that much attention to her, especially not when she was with Jean. Jean West had been Sandra's best friend for as long as she could remember. They had grown up together, sharing absolutely everything. Records, games, clothes. Jeannie had 2 brothers, and Sandra had 3, but neither had a sister. And that was what they'd been like to each other for years and years. Sisters. But Sandra was getting sick of living in Jean's shadow. The trouble with doing everything with Jean West was that Jean was spectacular at every single thing she did. Put spectacular next to average, and average looked a whole lot worse. Right. And it goes on from there to talk about how when Sandra gets B's, Jean gets A's.
Right. And they said something like Sandra has to try extra hard at the routines, and it kind of just seems like Jean just kind of like flourishes no matter what she does.
There's a scene in the book when they're at, like, water ballet. Right. Which is a girls-only class.
Such a weird.
Yeah. And it's like every thought that goes through Sandra's head in relationship to Jean is jealousy.
Right.
She notices that, well, Jean looks great in a black tank swimsuit. Anybody else would look terrible in that.
Right.
Look how easily Jean does the underwater somersaults.
Right.
I have to really struggle with that.
What's weird is, and I know that the emphasis of this book is obviously on Sandra and Jean. It's just like, have you noticed in the other 29 books that anything was leading up to this level of jealousy between Sandra and Jeannie?
No, but that's mostly because we don't know anything about these characters.
Right.
Like,
so it's like all of a sudden it's like this really intense, like, I can't stand.
Yeah, and like, what do we think about these girls? It's like... it's like the book tries by giving us their inner monologue for us to understand their perspective. And I can get feeling jealous of your best friend.
Right. I
can get feeling average. Mm-hmm. That's like a very relatable thing. Mm-hmm. There's the thing, even adult women talk about, like, hanging out with your friends that are not as pretty as you.
Like you're the DUFF. Like, I'm not doing it.
Yeah, that is totally what's happening. Right. Jean is feeling like, not Jean, Sandra is feeling like a real DUFF here. But what that leads her to do is just, I don't feel sympathy for her anymore.
I know, but I'm trying to think of it as like a 16-year-old.
Yeah. So we should say what it is that so the one thing that Sandy has is that she is in Pi Beta Alpha and Jean is not.
Right.
It's pledge season, which is super weird because we've already had pledge season. It was about 16 books ago. And they talk about how that happened, but they don't talk about, like, what time of year it was, anything like that. But that's we got to get used to it. We got to settle in. It's going to be perpetual time repeating itself forever. Right. So I guess everybody thinks that Sandy's going to...
somebody has to nominate Jeannie.
Yeah.
So obviously Sandy is the choice to do it.
And in fact, everyone, like all the other cheerleaders, except from Robin, are in PBA.
Right.
So, I think. So, it's like, why wouldn't you? Even, like, there's a new girl, Amy Sutton.
Right.
She is going to be in PBA, too. Like, so it's just only natural that Jean should be on. But Sandy is, like, bound and determined that Jean not get into PBA.
Right.
I thought that what was going to happen was that Sandy would nominate Jean and then secretly blackball Jean, which is a thing that you can do.
Yes. That's happened before, right?
That's what happened to Robin.
Yeah,
she got blackballed. Yeah. It was a scandal.
Right.
I don't know why these girls just don't nominate people that they don't want to have in the club, but that's not what she did. She goes ahead and nominates Jean because...
Well, the thing is that if she didn't nominate Jeannie, somebody was going to nominate Jeannie. So it's like...
And she knew it would look bad. Right. Because, like, well, why aren't you nominating your best friend?
Right.
But then they have these challenges, I guess, like any pledge would.
Like hazing.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Just like at a college.
Right.
Or like I understand happens
at college. I would know.
I think is not supposed to.
But like less deathly.
Yeah, it's not deathly. It's all just setting people up for terrible embarrassment. Well, there's a lot of weird, potentially embarrassing things that happen here.
Right.
Basically, Sandy just thinks that she is going to make sure that Jean doesn't get through the challenges.
Right.
And I kind of thought there were going to be a lot of challenges, but there's really just the one.
It's basically just the one thing, and it involves a guy.
Yeah. So Carol Walker's having a party for all the PBAs.
Right.
And the girls choose who the different pledges have to invite, what boy they have to invite to the party. And if they have to bring that boy to the party, they have to get him to agree to go.
Right. And that's the first part of the challenge, getting him to get there.
Yeah.
Right.
And so that's Enter
Tom McKay.
Enter Tom McKay.
Which is what was really interesting. I was like, which I didn't really understand, so maybe you can explain it to me. So Tom McKay and Jeannie, there was some friction there at the beginning, right? Like, so he was like, obviously kind of like, put off by her. And so Sandy was like, oh, this is great. He's going to want nothing to do with Jeannie, so it's going to be hard for her to, right?
Yeah.
But what was that tension? Like,
so a little bit later in the book, so we hear that from Winston Egbert of all people. He's like, oh, I heard Tom McKay was really angry at Jean earlier. He said she really snubbed her. But we find out a little bit later that Tom has had a secret crush on Jean for a long time. And that Tom is a very sensitive soul. Now,
who was with Jessica?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, okay. So let's take a look at that because I think this is interesting. Now, Tom McKay has in these books been described as like more interested in sports than girls.
Kind of outgoing and
but like also specifically the book says often that he is just not that into girls. Right. Which I have really, clung on to because there's just books are so heteronormative that I'm like, okay, well, we'll let Tom not be into girls. That'll be great. And so I was thinking about that when Tom is introduced. I mean, he sounds, fine as hell, but like, let's...
True.
Who doesn't in this book?
That's so true.
Tom McKay was one of the best-looking boys in the junior class. Blonde and clean-cut, he was on the tennis team. He was also a whiz at science and loved any kind of outdoor activity. Biking, camping, boating. He was exactly the kind of guy most girls dreamed about, but he seldom dated. The last girl he'd gone with was Jessica Wakefield, and a few people joked that she had turned him off the female sex forever, having strung him along until someone better came along.
Yeah.
Tom is the sports guy for the Oracle. He writes sports for the Oracle. That doesn't come up really in this book, which is super weird because this book will name drop the Oracle at
That's true. Even Elizabeth was talking. They were talking about Elizabeth writing some last minute deadline for the Oracle, and I was like,
she's working on her Eyes and Ears column, except that there's nothing
to
no gossip.
Report. Yeah.
There's nothing. It doesn't work into the story in any other way. Elizabeth and Jessica barely factor into the story. Right? But so Sandra she suggests that Tom be the person that Jean's hooked up with.
Right.
And even the PBA people are like, I don't know. That seems like... That was what was happening in that scene I just read. Lila was like, oh, that seems hard.
Yeah.
But Sandy's like pretending to PBA that, no, it'll be easy. And sure enough, like 5 minutes later, it's all settled. Like they're going to the dance together because it only takes Jean like a few seconds talking to Tom to like
totally woo him over.
And because all the other PBA girls want Jean in PBA, they're helping too.
Yeah.
And Sandra can't pretend like she just doesn't feel comfortable. Nobody knows. Yeah. Nobody can know how badly she wants to keep Jean out of PBA.
Right.
I guess we should say that Sandy's mindset is that if Jean is in PBA, they will not be best friends anymore. It's not just the jealousy thing. This is the one thing I have that she doesn't have. But she says repeatedly that this is what she thinks. Maybe this is just a lie she's telling herself. But
I wonder, I never thought that they weren't going to be, well, maybe of her own doing.
I don't think it makes sense. I don't think it's logical in any way.
No, but this whole thing wasn't logical.
No, it was a terrible idea.
Yeah.
Especially when we see in poor Jean's head and realize that the whole reason Jean wants to be in PBA
is because of Sandy.
I know, it makes you cry. I know. But before you get too sappy about Jean, we'll get there in a second. Because this whole drama unspools in that Sandy is like, well, I have to do by any means. I'm like, Tom is going to go to the dance with Jean. Mm-hmm. Sandy is even livid that it's so easy for Jean to get this date, which I can understand.
Right, naturally. Because everything's easy for her.
Yeah. But
here's the messy part. Yeah. This is like real mess. You got to do stuff that you can cover your tracks with. So she goes, apparently Tom works at a tennis shop, right?
Called The Tennis Shop.
Creative.
This is something we're noticing in Sweet Valley as the show goes on, that stuff is named after what they sell there.
Right. Francie Pascal, right to the point. So she goes to the tennis shop and essentially tells him that it is part of the, I don't know what you call it, initiation process, that the girls have to get a guy to go. So basically he's a project. So then, because he's so sensitive, he gets upset. And then this whole thing unfolds, right?
Right. And Sandy, like, her idea is that she's going to drop some subtle hints.
Right. How subtle,
but
though?
She's so awkward about it that Tom knows that it's clearly there, that's what she's there to do.
Right.
And then Tom is like, Jean is going to wish that she never messed with this guy.
Right.
And he does it really dirty. Like, part of me is kind of rooting for him.
A little bit. I was like, go ahead.
Yeah, these bitches, like...
Because when you think about it, I mean, like, it is a little jacked up.
Yeah, it is definitely.
Especially for somebody who was interested in her, felt like she snubbed him.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden there's like this 180. So, I mean, it is a little messed up.
I do have this sense of Thomas being like the one guy in Sweet Valley who's like on to these girls.
Yeah.
And they're scheming.
And
like
they keep messing with them.
It's actually really clever. A little bit later on in the book, Tom has this whole mindset where he thinks that he's falling in love with this girl, with Jean. Mm-hmm. I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but we'll get there. He thinks he's falling in love with her, but he wants to make sure that they are compatible before he lets himself fall all the way. Right. And I was just like, that's really clever strategy. Yeah, I wish I could employ that. But it doesn't always work that way.
Never. No.
But yeah, so Tom tells Jean to be ready early.
Right.
Then he doesn't show up early. Then he calls to say he fell asleep after practice. He's so sorry. She'll have to grab something to eat on her own, but he'll be there soon. He'll be there at 9 or something. The party starts at 9, so they're late. Then it's 9:30, and he calls again.
And by this time, the girls are calling, right? Aren't the girls calling her, trying to figure out where she is? Yeah.
Yeah. Because if she doesn't show up to this party with this date, she is not in PBA.
Exactly.
So then Tom calls again and tells Jean that he got food poisoning and is in the emergency room.
The disrespect.
Yeah. And so Jean is upset. Jean was kind of toying with the idea of being interested in Tom, maybe. Right. But she wants to be in PBA, too. And so she goes to the party. She explains what happened. Tom is so sick. And Sandy is like, oh, fuck, my plan, if they have pity on her, my plan fails. Right. So she says, oh, that sounds like a line. Like, you better call the hospital and find out for sure if he's there.
This is why sometimes, like, I will believe a lot of dumb shit about a book. But I was like, oh, you're going to call the hospital and just ask about information about a patient. They're just going to give it to you? Okay. This is good.
There's some funny business with the hospital where it's like, Mikhail? Mikhail? Like, oh, no, there's nobody by Mikhail or McKay here. So it turns out he's lying.
Right.
Jean is livid. But the girls are like, the other PBA girls are like, oh, that dog. Like, well, maybe it's okay. Like, well, maybe we'll come up. Oh, no, Jean comes up with this whole scheme.
This whole scheme. Yeah. Right. Well, okay, but this is what's weird. This is where I'm like, wait a second. Because what was Sandy hoping to accomplish?
Yeah, because what happens is Jean comes up with this scheme. She's like, we're going to make Tom regret he ever messed with me, Jean West. Like, we're going to fuck with him. We're going to give him a dose of his own medicine. And what if at this Friday the 13th dance that's coming up in a week, because there's always a dance. And Friday the 13th is also Jean's birthday. Right. Like, so Jean and Dana Larson are supposed to start the dancing by, like, because it's their special day. Right? Yeah, but, like, inviting a boy up to dance with them. And, like, what if I get him to fall in love with me, and then I am up at the dance, and I call somebody else's name, even though he's my date, and he'll be so embarrassed. It's very convoluted. Yeah. The whole thing about, like, we'll get these two girls to start the dance feels weird.
Why Dana? Was it both of their birthdays?
Yes, so. They do say in the book, they're like, they're both Friday the 13th babies. I think we'll read that part when we get to it. But Sandy, this is what you're talking about.
Right.
She's like, I don't think that's fair.
Right. Right.
You want to read that part? That Sandra cleared her throat part?
Okay. So Sandra cleared her throat. That isn't fair, she said quietly. Everyone stared. What do you mean? Lila demanded, irritated. A rule's a rule, Sandra said. It isn't fair to let Jeannie off when all the other pledges had to do it. Jean's eyes blazed. Sandy Bacon, how dare you say something like that, she cried. You're supposed to be my best friend.
Yeah, it's so she gets real pissed, like right off the bat, which I was actually kind of surprised at how quickly Jean saw through Sandy, like saw that Sandy, not saw through her, but like she jumped straight to, this is a betrayal.
Yes.
You know, which it was, but.
I just feel like that's so weird. I thought this happened later on in the book.
No, yeah.
Okay.
It's here it is.
Yeah.
They're at this party, and what happens though is that
you're right. That's yep. Okay. Something else happens later on.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. So Jean and Sandy now aren't talking to each other.
Right.
So Sandy's worries about not being friends with Jean anymore have come true.
Right.
And Sandy's like, well, fuck, I really screwed up.
Right. Now she's starting to feel bad about everything.
So that's good for you, Sandy.
Right.
That you're starting to feel bad about your treacherous bullshit.
Yeah, but then I feel like she starts to try and find like ways to atone.
Yeah.
Right? But she spends like basically the rest of the book trying to make up for it.
She apologizes to Jean, but she also lies again to Jean to cover her ass.
Right.
And the lie, she's kind of dabbled in earlier.
Saying like, I can't take special treatment on you.
She tells her that all of the PBAs have really been coming down hard on her because, and you don't know what it's like behind the scenes. You'll see once you're really in PBA.
Right.
But they've been really hard on me thinking that I'm giving you special treatment.
Right.
And Jean knows that sounds like bullshit, but she wants to believe it.
Right.
Because it's her best friend.
Right.
Meanwhile, now Jean is trying to seduce Tom, and it's working.
It's working, but then also she's falling for him.
Yeah.
But wait, I just love the whole thing where she's like really laying it on thick. Yeah. And then he...
the best part. The best part is the first thing she does. I actually love this.
Like when she goes to his house, right?
Yeah. And she says something like, there's nothing like kindness to teach somebody a lesson. Yes. Something like that.
So like she shows up at his door and she's like, you should be in bed.
She makes him a care package that has special tummy tea in it. And it has a Sports Illustrated. It's like genuinely sweet. Yeah. And Tom is like, holy fuck, crap. I misread this.
Yes. Yes.
But then he's so touched and thinking he has misread the situation, which he hadn't actually, but because she is playing him at this point, that he starts, like, he plans a picnic for her, and the book is, like, faking us out a little bit a few times, making us think, like, this isn't the kind of thing that Jean normally likes.
Right.
But then Jean is won over, so she realizes all the more that she's, like, falling for Tom.
Right. And then she's like, crap, I can't follow through with this whole plan.
Yeah.
And then she's like, I can't be in PBA because I'm not going to do this to Tom.
She tells Sandra that, right? Like,
I don't think she tells anybody that. I think she's just like in her head. She's like, I'm not doing this.
Okay.
And she's like, and the girls are I think the girls are like noticing that there's a little bit something weird going on. They're like, are you sure you're going to be able to do this? And she's like, oh, no, it's fine. I got this.
Yeah.
But all the while, she's like, I'm not doing this.
Yeah, she's just going to not be in PBA.
Right.
She'd rather do the right thing. And then you're like, okay, Jean, you were also a heinous bitch, but now I'm starting to come around. Yeah. Everybody is bad. Everybody's telling jealous lies.
Everybody's messed up. But and you know what I think would have like redeemed all of them? Because I don't even think Jeannie ends up telling Tom anything. No, that's period.
That's kind of what I was thinking of when I wrote the intro thing, is that nobody really fully confesses all the shit that they did.
Right. Only Jeannie, because Sandy gets caught out. Yeah. But like only Sandy.
Yeah.
Jeannie never tells Tom.
And Sandy never tells Jean or anybody that she was lying about the fact that the PBAs were putting on the pressure.
Right.
She only confesses that she was jealous and did and told Tom, or dropped a hint.
Actually, she never even said that. Tom was the one that told Jeannie, like, oh, Sandy came in and...
Oh, yeah.
That's when Jeannie got hella pissed. She's like, stay the hell away from me.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, so we didn't, well, I guess now we just did tell them that. Right. But yeah, that does happen. So yeah. Tom and Jean are getting close, and when Tom, like, Jean actually does come clean to Tom, I guess, that was the original reason for their date.
Oh, okay.
But she doesn't tell Tom that she was going to... she does not confess to him that the scheme about what was planned for the Friday the 13th dance.
Okay.
Gladiators, are you keeping up with all of this? Because there's a lot of lying going on and a lot of not confessing and a little bit of confessing.
Jealous Lies is a pretty apt name for the book.
Yeah, right. Well, we can take a pivot for a second if you want and talk about the other lying that's happening in this book.
Are you talking about Steve?
Yeah, I'm talking about Steve.
Okay.
Stephen Wakefield.
Who is a spitting image of his father.
Yeah.
You know what kind of weirds me out about... Whenever we start talking about, like, the looks in this family, like, they are, first of all, I guess, like, everybody looks like each other, right? But there's, like, this moment in the book where Jessica's, like, looking at Steven, and she's, like, awed by how, like, good-looking he is, and I was like, yo, bro, gross.
Yeah, I've just been sitting here nodding my head the whole time, because when you said, do you know what creeps me out about this? I'm like, yeah, I do know. I know exactly what you're going to say. It's that, like, all the family members, through their gazes, are, like, sexualizing each other.
Like, God, we're so damn good looking.
And it's even with the dad, too. It's like, oh, you know, Elizabeth realized when she looked at Ned Wakefield that he didn't look anywhere near his age.
Like, cut it out.
He didn't have a single strand of gray in his hair. He looked like Stephen Wakefield's older brother, you know?
Yeah. Everybody looks at their older brother. I can't. But yeah, so Steve is what? Like, he's in his first semester?
He's 18, whatever. He's at some point in his freshman year of college.
And he's dating Kara Walker.
It's relatively new, but they're very much in love.
Right. So in love, because they fall in love in like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So he comes home, I guess for the fall, winter semester, whatever. He comes home, and he tells his parents that he is dropping out of school because he wants to be on a cruise ship.
Yeah.
Because that's what you do.
Yeah.
And, naturally, his parents flip a shit.
Yeah. So Jessica finds out about this a little bit in advance of Stephen's return from Kara.
Tells her,
Kara is crying about it because she knows it's going to be terrible. Jessica keeps on guessing that they're cheating on each other. Like, oh, is there another woman? Like, oh, well, are you having an affair? And Kara's like, Jessica, there's other things that can go wrong in a relationship. So she says, well, Kara said, looking unhappy, apparently Steve's roommate Bob's father owns an ocean liner, one of those ships used for cruises. Every few months, the ship goes from LA to the Far East and then to Europe. Anyway, Bob decided to leave school to work for his dad, and he's convinced Steve to quit college and go along. Wow, Jessica said, her eyes shining. I think it sounds great, Kara. Ocean liners are so romantic. Maybe you can stow away and creep out on the upper deck when you're smack in the middle of the ocean, like on Love Boat.
What the actual fuck? First of all, Bob's father has an ocean liner. Like, casual. Okay, like you do.
Also, how weird was it to read this book from the mid-'80s and have them constantly referring to the Far East?
I don't understand.
Like, the country of China gets name-dropped, like, once. in this book, but generally speaking, they refer to it as the Far East over and over and over again. Like, no more specificity than that.
Don't understand.
Are you going to Japan? Are you going to Cambodia?
Right. And then Jessica being the fucking drama queen that she is. That's so romantic. You know what I thought was so...
romantic?
No. Like, unbelievable was that she was able to keep it a secret. Yeah. For as long as she was. I was like, there's no way. Jessica's a gossip. Yeah. But she did. She kept it a secret. And so, yeah, Steve comes home, tells his parents. They flip out. Yeah. Naturally. And now
getting to the lying part.
Right. The lying thing is that obviously your parents tell you, no. So he digs his heels in. He's like, I'm going. You can't tell me what to do. So that I think it's Elizabeth, which again is so
it's not
unbelievable.
Very Elizabeth, yeah.
Elizabeth's like, no, let's go along with it. Let's make him think that we agree with it and we support him and maybe he'll change his mind.
They even reference something that happened in an earlier book. Like, Mom and Dad, remember how when you wanted to move to San Francisco, Jessica and I waged this campaign and I was like, okay, so you're going to just do that exact same plot again for this book? But I thought it was funny that Alice is like, yeah, I remember that, but that's not why we didn't go. And which I thought was a good point. But Elizabeth's like, let's do that again, only this time with reverse psychology. Right. So they all pretend like they think it's a great idea.
Right. And the parents, I was like, this is why it's like, no, you act like your children, you look like your children.
Yes.
Girl, like, really?
Yeah, they all agree. The parents are maybe the least encouraging.
Well, the mom, I think, is the least. The dad's like, this is great. Yeah. Let's do this.
So Elizabeth basically thinks that Stephen is trying to assert his adulthood. Right. And apparently she's right. I thought maybe this is going to blow up in their faces. Right. I was hoping that maybe it would because it's so conniving. Yeah. But the biggest thing is that Kara, who we know is heartbroken, is agreed to be in on this plan. Right. And when Stephen talked with her about it, she's like, you know what? If you think it's such a good idea, it sounds like so much fun. It'll be a great time.
I thought that was going to be the giveaway because she was so distraught. And then all of a sudden she's talking about, well, we're just going to have to date other people. And it's just going to be like...
She's like, I'll be sorry to break up with you, but I guess that's how it is. And Steve's like, whoa, we're breaking up. And then Kara has an excellent point. She's like, well, you're going to be gone for 8 to 9 months at a time. Will you want me to just sit around and wait for you? And he was like, well, I don't know. Maybe. I thought you'd care a little more. And she's like, well, you didn't care enough to ask me what I thought.
That was the big thing. I was like, you go ahead, girl. Because he didn't. He was like, I'm leaving.
I kind of want to be like, Carrie, you go ahead and break up with him, like you're saying. Because, and Stephen, once he hears it out loud, realizes, he has a thought. At one point, the book points out that he thinks something like, oh, yeah, telling Kara that I was doing this is not the same as asking what she thought of it.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
And then the more practical points, like, how am I going to afford it? And health insurance and all the practical shit that, 18-year-olds don't think of.
Yeah. So Stephen realizes he doesn't really want to do it. Right. Meanwhile, the twins have planned a party to a bon voyage party.
So that was supposed to be the 13th party. And isn't that the 13th party?
I think it's a different party.
Oh, it's a different party.
At their house.
Oh, okay.
They invite everybody over. It's a surprise party.
What was the party supposed to be, though?
I think that the whole time it was
a welcome home?
I guess it was going to be a welcome home, and they turn it into a bon voyage.
Oh, okay.
I don't know why they have to throw him a welcome home party.
He was gone for 2 months?
And also he goes to a Sweet Valley college.
Right, it's 2 seconds away. Relax. But yeah.
Yeah. So the idea is that they're going to have this party that will be the final straw if we haven't sold him yet. If we haven't undone, reverse psychology himself into thinking that he actually doesn't really want to do this. Right.
And so they throw the party, he shows up, and he just is like, I'm not going. Yeah. You guys don't care.
And then they turn around the sign, and they're like, welcome home, Stephen. Right. And then he's like, oh, you guys. And everybody's like, ha, ha, ha. We've all been lying to you. Lying.
So ridiculous.
We organized a grand lie scheme for you, and then just to fuck with you. Surprise, it's a prank. It's fun. And he just like, oh, I want to eat a sandwich now. I'm hungry.
Oh, shucks. I love it. It's actually a really stupid subplot,
but it's very stupid. Yeah, yeah. It is fun. It was kind of fun, I guess, and just gave Jessica and Elizabeth something to do.
Right, because it's true because I feel like even when Jessica and Elizabeth aren't the main characters, they still have a lot to do with what's going on, and they literally had almost nothing to do with anything in this book.
Yeah. They really do. I mean, even there's actually a moment where Elizabeth thinks that she would intervene if only she knew Jean West better.
Yeah.
Which is, I call bullshit on that, because Elizabeth does not need to know anybody. And then Sandra shows up in the Oracle office.
So that's what I was going to say, is like Sandra, when she was trying to like basically atone for what she was doing, didn't she go to the Oracle to basically put in like a tip? Like,
is that what she was going to do?
That's what I think she was trying to do. Because why else would she go?
She ends up not... I think that she was going to see Mr. Collins, which brings us to a segment of the podcast we call Collins
Sexy
Watch.
Mr. Collins.
Yeah, Collins Watch 2019. So this is actually a good one, because Mr. Collins, normally I'm on a mission to prove Mr. Collins is above reproach.
Right.
However, the books sexualize him so hard.
Dude.
But here's one where it is a little bit like, oh, Mr. Collins, oh, Roger, oh, you, what are you getting at? So I'm going to jump a paragraph here, but we'll, Mr. Collins was one of her favorite teachers. Young and handsome, he resembled Robert Redford. He was a demanding teacher, but made the subject come alive. Outside of class, he was a great listener and had a wonderful shoulder to cry on. Hey, Mr. Collins said, sitting down on the edge of his desk and crossing his arms. I have the distinct impression something's bugging you. Sandra's eyes filled with tears. Mr. Collins, she said suddenly, suppose you'd done something rotten, I mean really rotten, to someone you care a lot about. You probably never would, but just suppose you had. What would you do about it? Mr. Collins said, his blue eyes thoughtful. Well, in the first place, Sandy, don't be so quick to assume I don't know how you feel. I have done some rotten things to people I love in the past. And since I'm human, something tells me I might again.
Ugh, gross, dude.
I don't know why that stuff is like, oh, damn. Like, something tells me I might do something rotten again, Sandra.
Gross. I don't know, like, when she's like, he's one of her favorite teachers, and then he's like, and then the book's like, he's handsome. Is that why?
Yeah, that's the first thing that everybody says. Like, the book always goes with the fact that he was the most handsome teacher in the school was one of the reasons he was everybody's favorite. Right. But not the only reason.
Right. He was also smart.
Yeah.
It's weird.
I mean, in Mr. Collins' defense, he goes on to give very solid advice that's like, maybe if you tell this person the truth before she finds it out, or before they find it out, you will be okay.
Right.
But that's not what happens.
Right.
Instead, Elizabeth doesn't intervene at all.
Right.
And the Friday the 13th party happens.
Yeah. But Tom tells Jeannie before the Friday the 13th party, and she holds it in.
Yeah, she does not. She can barely look at Sandra, but she doesn't confront Sandra.
So then the whole thing happens. She gets on the stage.
Yeah.
Right?
Let me read that part. Not so much because I think the listeners really need to understand this section in order to, like, get the book, but because, damn, I can't believe this is not, like, normal in high school. It's so stressful to me, and I'm like a gregarious person, but the idea of this makes me nervous. Okay, so Caroline Pierce she's got a microphone. She's at this party, which this Friday the 13th party is, like, all decked out with, like, black cat decorations, and it's supposed to be spooky.
Right.
But it's not Halloween. It's just an unlucky holiday. God forbid you're actually superstitious. You wouldn't go anywhere near this party. Okay. Dana and Jeannie are both Friday the 13th babies, Caroline explained. They are both celebrating their birthdays today, so tonight we're honoring them, and they're honoring us by choosing partners and starting off the spookiest dance in Sweet Valley history. Everyone cheered wildly. Jean could see a knot of Pi Betas standing in front of the crowd. They were watching her expectantly, and when she caught Lila's eye, Lila gave her the victory sign. Jean bit her lip and looked away. Dana, you start, Caroline instructed. A fast-paced dance record was put on in place of the eerie music, and Dana took the mic from Caroline and said, Geri Novak, in a loud, clear voice. Everyone cheered. Dana was the lead singer for the Droids, Sweet Valley High's own rock band, and Geri was her latest boyfriend. Okay, Jeannie, Caroline said, passing her the mic. Suddenly, Jean felt dizzy. She could see the expectant smiles on the Pi Betas' faces. Across the circle, she could see Tom looking at her with a mixture of confusion, nervousness, and affection. Then her gaze picked out the face she had been looking for. Sandra was standing just to the side of the other sorority girls. Her face was pale, and her eyes were very big as she stared at Jean. Jean looked straight at her, and a dozen conflicting thoughts went through her mind. She couldn't really sort out what she was thinking, but she knew what she was feeling. She was feeling affection. Affection more intense than any she had ever known before. Love, Jean thought with a lump in her throat, is the only thing that matters. Tom McKay, she said into the microphone. A gasp came from the corner where the Pi Betas were standing, but she ignored it. She moved forward across the dance floor, and Tom met her halfway, taking her into his arms, a smile on his face that made her eyes swim with tears.
Give me a whole break.
Yeah, but just the whole, like, I can picture it, like, Dana with the microphone. I know, who's right? Like, Sherry, what's his name? I can't
Novak.
Sherry Novak. Like, okay, Dana. Like, relax. But yeah, we're honoring them by, it's such a weird thought, like, by putting them on the spot in this weird way. I mean, they both agreed to do it.
Right.
Anyway, all the Pi Betas are like, well, fuck that then. Yeah. Like, she didn't do it. She chickened out.
Right. But then, they still want to let her in.
Because Sandra is like, you guys don't understand. It's not her fault. It's my fault.
Is that what? I think I'm screwing up. Like,
I'm misremembering what happened.
Yeah, I think I'm like, oh, yeah, no.
Well,
no.
She doesn't confess to Jean. Right. She tells the Pi Betas that it was all her fault because she was messing with them, but she's not very specific.
Yeah.
And then
they go off in a corner and, like, consult, right? And then her and Jeannie have, like, this little moment, right?
And Sandy also says, kick me out and take her in my place. So she's trying to sacrifice herself. Yeah. So it really, like, hammers home her point that, like, Jean, it's not just I want to be in this club with my friend. Yeah. Like, I fucked up.
Yeah.
So it's very selfless, and I was, like, so pissed off at the book for, like, making me care about these bitches. That was the feeling I was having.
Yeah.
Like, why? Don't make me forgive them. They suck.
They do. They, like, and I didn't.
Oh, good. I'm so glad. I'm glad one of us did.
I legitimately did not. I was like, nah, y'all all can get the smoke. You guys all suck.
Well,
the only person that I was like, you're justified in everything that you did is Tom McKay.
It does make me wish that there was a book about some other people in this high school other than these mean girls, you know?
Well, there is. I mean,
like, this series in general. Like, these are our people. Like, these are our characters week after week. Is these girls it's kind of
like,
boys.
what's, like, a show these days that, it's like, Gossip Girl.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it's like the 80s version of Gossip Girl.
Yeah. That's true. So, I mean, like, then it's over. Like, happy ending.
Yeah.
And, because the Pi Betas agree that everybody can be in the club.
Everybody can be in the club, and everybody's happy, and that's the end of that. And But what was weird is that it doesn't really change anything, right? Sandra still feels frumpy.
Yeah.
Jeannie's still going to be, like, overshadowing her.
Yeah.
And the only thing that changed is that Jeannie said that she wants to be in the club because she loves her so much.
Yeah. Yeah.
So nothing really gets resolved. I mean, Jeannie still gets whatever she wants in the end, and Sandy is still kind of like...
Yeah. At least they've, like, told each other a little bit of the truth, at least about the jealousy.
Right.
So that maybe...
Maybe they work on that.
Yeah.
But then the end of the book...
Oh.
They bring up the...
Oh my god. This is the part of the podcast where we talk about boys.
Oh, boys. Okay.
Boys are beautiful boys, are beautiful boys. I'm in danger of losing my head.
Oh, sorry. I'm not very happy because I'm not thrilled about the turn that the books are about to take.
Why?
Because I am totally ship Todd and Elizabeth.
Todd and Elizabeth.
And Jeffrey French has entered the picture.
I like, know the name Jeffrey French. Does he have, like, a really sordid past?
I don't think so.
Okay, because I know the name, but I can't remember.
What happens is that Jeffrey French, I mean, spoiler alert, gladiators, because this isn't going to happen right away, but pretty soon Jeffrey French and Elizabeth are going to be a thing.
Right, but Enid is totally, like, into him, right? And they're, like, best friends.
Yeah, and apparently some other stuff is going to happen. We'll tease the ending, but, like... We'll give Jeffrey French his moment. I can't, just because I am not thrilled with Jeffrey French as a character doesn't mean we can't give him his sexy dues. Okay, so Enid is like, hey, Liz, who's that guy with Aaron Dallas? And Elizabeth doesn't know, but she's like, Jessica will know, and she does. So she says, of course I know who he is. His name is Jeffrey French. He's new. He just moved here from Oregon. And he's starting school on Monday. He's a junior. He and Aaron met at some soccer camp in Northern California last summer. And he's... Whoa, Elizabeth cried, laughing. See what I mean? She added to Enid, you ask Jessica who someone is, and she gives you his whole life story.
Right.
And Enid is like staring after him, like, so sexy. But then we also get a description of just how sexy he is at the very end of the book. So he comes to the door with Aaron to this party that they're having for Stephen. Elizabeth says, welcome to Sweet Valley. Thanks, Jeffrey said. His voice was surprisingly low and warm. And Elizabeth decided then and there that she liked him. Believe me, I feel welcome already, Jeffrey added. The Dallases have been unbelievably nice to me. Aaron's been showing me around. We met at soccer camp last summer, and poor guy, he never suspected I'd show up in town one day, taking him up on his offer to give me the grand tour. That's all. Jeffrey has green eyes like every other fucking person in this town.
I get the feeling that he has green eyes and blonde hair.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's Jeffrey French. Any other boys you want to talk about? Geri Novak?
Geri Novak. Who is the guy... maybe not. Who is the guy that, like... We talked about this, like, weeks ago when we were talking about it, but... he's a real dick of a guy.
Bruce Patman?
Yeah.
He's, like, nowhere to be seen in this book.
Yeah.
He does not appear.
And doesn't he end up, like turning his life around and getting really nice?
That's actually why Bruce Patman's not in this book, because he's, like... out of the picture right now. He's like less interesting to drama because he's in this relationship with Regina Morrow.
Is it Regina? She's the one that's sick, right?
She's deaf, but not anymore because her hearing got fixed.
Who's the one? It was Trish. That's the one that's really
Trisha
sick.
Martin. Yeah, that's Stephen Wakefield's deceased girlfriend.
She did die.
She did die. She's dead.
Oh, no. She died.
Oh.
I'm trying to think who else that I knew who was like...
Winston Egbert is...
He's the fuddy-duddy one, right?
He's like throwing paper airplanes at girls that have like love notes, but he just like throw them at anybody and any girl. It's like
it's hard to keep up with the guys. Buddy. It's hard.
Yeah, this book is mostly girls too.
Yeah, right.
I wish I would even know like who are the other pledges.
Yeah.
Who were they taking to the party? But there's not a ton of info about that. Yeah, nobody cares.
Nobody cares.
Oh, Tom McKay.
But I do think like the next book. Yeah. Because they kind of tease it a little bit where they're talking about Lila.
Yeah.
Is the one that's super interested in Jeffrey.
Well, you want to tease the audience for the next book? If you wouldn't mind reading this teaser.
So it says, Enid has stiff competition for Jeffrey French's attention. None other than Lila Fowler. Jessica and Elizabeth enter the hottest matchmaking duel ever. In Sweet Valley High, number 31, Taking Sides. So then Elizabeth is trying to get Enid with Jeffrey. Jessica's trying to get Lila with Jeffrey. And Jeffrey doesn't want anybody with Elizabeth.
Yeah. So I like laid eyes on the name Jeffrey French in this book, and I was like, oh, it begins.
Really? You didn't like him at all, period?
Well, that's what I thought today when I was reading this book.
Yeah.
But then it got to this teaser, and I was like, oh, I'm actually excited for that book. Right. I don't remember reading that. I did read it, but I don't remember it.
Yeah.
This is going to be good.
Yeah, because then what's weird to me is that Elizabeth is so, like... over everything that happens in high school, but she's also so in it.
Yeah.
Like, she is in PBA. Is she a cheerleader, too?
No.
Like, she's in all of it, because I guess her sister's in it, but she's so over it. And then I imagine this whole thing is just going to make her and Lila even more, like, at odds with each other.
Yeah. Well, and Elizabeth and Enid against Jessica and Lila, it's going to be, like...
Because Lila's rich as hell.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And Enid, I assume, is just, like... Sandy, right?
And Jessica is no fan of Enid's. Right. So I'm like kind of excited about it.
Yeah. The drama.
Yeah. Well, Cherelle, thank you so much. Yes. This has been so much fun.
Yes, my pleasure.
We'll have to have you back again especially if there's ever more Sandra Bacon and Jean West drama. I don't know. I think one of them falls in love with somebody from the wrong side of the tracks or something.
What? Jeannie doesn't stay with Tom McKay?
Oh, good. Maybe there's a book in the future about their, like, trouble in paradise. I don't know. I'm just making it up now. Yeah. But one of them, I think, has some sort of romance book in the near future.
Okay.
But it might be... I don't know. I'm thinking about which book it might be, and I don't know what we're going to do.
But we have, like, 165 more, so... Yeah.
Well, we'll continue this conversation next week.
Definitely.
On extra drama.
Yes.
In the meantime, listeners, thank you so much for bearing with us through this brief technical issue thing that happened. And tune in next week for extra drama, of course. And then I will give you updates. We'll be on hiatus for a little while, but of course, we'll have some special surprises in the meantime. I would love for you to take the break to, in the spirit of like what you did on your summer vacation, maybe write a review of the podcast on Apple Podcasts, or just tell your friends, write me a letter, sweetvalleydiaries@me.com, or, whatever you want. This is so much fun. Thank you, everyone, and thank you, Cherelle.
Thank you.
I'm doing air quotes. Podcast listeners cannot see, but maybe they can see in real life, but they can't see me doing the air quotes right now.